Let's be real. Anyone can watch a video on just filling out a form. But today, we're doing something different. We're going to deconstruct the entire system behind Form W-7 and the Individual Taxpayer Identification Number, or ITIN. We're diving deep to look at the core logic, the hidden traps, and the key strategic moves that mean the difference between getting approved and getting rejected flat out. So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll draw a really clear line in the sand between an ITIN and a social security number. Then we'll talk about what I call the non-negotiable application package. After that, we're tackling the single biggest hurdle, proving who you are. Then we'll peek at the rare exceptions before we finish up with a really crucial choice, how you actually submit the whole thing.
All right, first things first. Before we even think about the how, we have to lock down the why. You know, the entire ITN system really only exists for one reason, and getting this part wrong is probably the first and most common mistake people make. This isn't just about getting some number, it's about figuring out which lane you're supposed to be in.
Okay, this right here shows you the fundamental split. A social security number, an SSN, that's about work and benefits. An ITN, on the other hand, is only, and I mean only, for tax reporting. And here's the golden rule of the whole game. If you are eligible to get an SSN, you cannot get an ITN. Period. That's it. Mixing these two up is pretty much the fastest way to get your application tossed in the reject pile.
And the biggest clue is right here in the official IRS definition. See that? It's a tax processing number. That's its whole job. It has nothing to do with work authorization. It doesn't grant any immigration benefits. It's purely a tool the IRS uses to make sure you're lined up with US tax law. That's it.
So if an ITIN is only for taxes, you might be wondering, how do you actually prove you need one? Well, that brings us to the application package itself. The IRS is not just going to take your word for it. A Form W-7 almost never goes in by itself. It needs some serious backup. I want you to think of your application like a three-legged stool. You've got the W-7 form itself, that's leg one. Then you have a US tax return that proves you need it, that's leg two. And finally, you've got the documents that prove who you are, and that's leg three. If any one of those legs is missing, or even just a little wobbly, the whole thing just crashes. Your application fails. This quote right here, it tells you everything you need to know about how the IRS sees this. They're basically saying, oh, you want a tax number? Fine, show us the tax return that you need it for. That is the default setting for every single application. And as we're gonna see, there are only a few very specific ways around this.
All right, let's talk about the third leg of that stool, proving your identity. Now this is where most applications just completely fall apart. It's not just about having some documents, it's about having the exact right documents in the exact right format. Getting this part wrong is hands down the #1 reason for rejection. You see, the whole system is designed to revolve around one document, the passport. For the main person applying, an original, valid passport is the golden key. And why is that? Well, it's because it's the only single document that proves both things the IRS needs to see, your identity and your foreign status. It does both jobs at once.
But, and this is a huge but, here's a little detail that trips up so many people. When it comes to dependents, like your spouse or child, a passport often isn't enough on its own, especially if that passport is missing a US date of entry stamp. This one tiny detail is a massive, massive reason for rejection.
And this table here really shows you the logic the IRS is using. If that passport isn't enough for a dependent, you need other proof. And notice this, that proof has to be recent. There are strict time limits. Medical records for a little kid gotta be less than a year old. School records, the term has to have ended within the last 12 months. What they're looking for is a current official connection.
Now let's get crystal clear on what the IRS means when they say certified copy, because this is a huge trap. It is not a notarized copy. It's not something you get from a local notary.
It has to be a copy that is made and certified by the exact same agency that issued the original document in the first place, complete with their official stamp or seal. Getting this definition wrong is such a common and fatal mistake. Okay, so we've really hammered on that three-legged stool idea and how one of those legs is a tax return. But what if you need an ITN but you don't actually have a tax return to file just yet? Well, there are 5 very specific, very narrow exceptions to this rule. Let's break them down. So this might look like just a random list of situations, but there's actually a single, simple principle that connects every single one of these exceptions. In each case, there's a third party, like a bank or university or a partnership, that is already required by law to report your income or withhold tax. That official action is what proves your tax purpose to the IRS, and it takes the place of you filing a personal tax return. So finally, you've done all the hard work. You've built the perfect application package. Now, how do you actually send it in? And trust me, this isn't just about sticking a stamp on an envelope. This is a real strategic choice you have to make about risk, security, and the safety of your most important documents. And this right here lays out the trade-off perfectly. You can absolutely mail everything yourself, but that means you're putting your original passport or your kid's original birth certificate into the postal system. That is a huge risk of loss, a risk of major delays. The alternative is to use an IRS authorized acceptance agent, and that completely changes the risk game. But here is the single most important detail about this. Not all agents are the same. A standard acceptance agent, an AA, they can help you, but they still have to mail your original documents to the IRS. A certifying acceptance agent, a CAA, they're different. They are authorized by the IRS to look at your passport, verify it in person, and then send the application without your original document. That is the key difference. With a CAA, your passport never, ever has to leave your site. So after we've broken this all down, it all comes back to this one core challenge. The entire W-7 system, every rule, every form, it's all designed to get a clear, undeniable answer to this one question. If you can build your application package to prove both your identity and your tax purpose from the IRS's perspective, well, then you haven't just filled out a form, you've actually mastered the system.